Gotcha. Hi, welcome to a new Plugin Guru video. My name is John Skippy-Limical. Welcome. I am showing that was a demo song that's using 8 patches that are in this $2 MegaMagic Violin demo file you can buy from my website right now. This is it's usable for writing music like this right out of the box. But the main reason to buy this is to give you you're registered into my system on the website. And it's an invitation for you to make patches. Using these samples, make new, cool, creative, whatever you're into, make patches using these samples. Send them to myself through the website. There's actually information in a PDF that you get when you buy the little library about where to send the sounds by September 26th. And if myself and other people that will be judging and checking out the patches are impressed, it will get put into the full version of the MegaMagic Violin library, and B, you get the MegaMagic $50 library for free. So there's a little bit of a carrot in there if you want to be a part of this. The whole goal is to just get you into programming, being comfortable programming your synthesizers that you own. That's what I'm all about. Because I want you to stay in artistic mode when you turn and look at the screen instead of the keyboard or the guitar or whatever is your musical instrument. In that mode, you're a musician, you're in your artist mode, you're creative, and you look at your computer and you turn into a techno, problem solving, I don't know how to do this, and you kind of lose that artistic edge. So these videos and all this kind of support is all to help you keep your artistic edge even when you're looking at Omnisphere, okay? So this video is sponsored by my website, pluginguru.com, and you can come here, you can see we've got the programming skills up. So right there, you click that to get the library for $2. And I'm going to go through the library and I'll show you the 18 patches. And then after that, I'm going to give you kind of like a little primer course for those of you that are really beginners and need some help knowing where to start, right? But before we do that, let me just give you a little history. This is the 3rd library I've done this to. We started way back in the day with cello, like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And right? And then earlier this year, we released the viola library. And this isn't the same per se because this is inside of, let's see if I go over here. I need to be on the dry. This is just the vibrato of the violin, the new library. There's violin. And as you can see, when you look at this list, there's some, we're not there yet, we're here. You can see that there's different types of MegaMagic, dry, ambient, what's going on there. Each one of these were recorded. Let's see if I go over here, I can show you. So here's the dry, right? Then there's also an ambient version, which has ambient recorded into the samples. Sounds like it's in a concert hall. And then the 2 MegaMagic versions, which have really long ambience in the first one. And then MegaMagic 2, I started with MegaMagic Guitar doing this. This is using the Valhalla with the stereo pitch shifting inside the reverb. So even though there's not 10,000 samples, they're unique samples, and I'm kind of going for unique sounds that are not sounds that you've necessarily heard everywhere all the time, right? You know, I'm not trying to make another violin library because there's I can think of 12 or 13 off the top of my head from all these different companies. I'm not doing that. I'm trying to get kind of the new kind of stuff using violin, viola, and cello, but making new things from those acoustic instruments. That's what I'm going for. One of the drawbacks with the program mode in Omnisphere is you can't map multiple samples across the keyboard. When we get to doing the multis like these for like the cello and stuff, these actually are 8 different samples that are across the keyboard and windowed, because we can't load. Contact 5 has the ability to do this inside of itself. It's really easy to set up a map where you have these samples and you could have every note be a sample and it could be velocity and stuff. Well, Omnisphere hasn't wanted to go in that direction. And so in order to get things to be able to play more than one sample across the keyboard, and trust me, a cello or a viola or a violin with one sample across the keyboard for the most part sounds really bad. So you need to use this multi-sampling across the keyboard. But there are select samples that you can find that work across the whole keyboard. And I was very careful. There's over 725 samples in the violin library. I went through and I found the samples that work really well across the keyboard. And then I weeded it down. It took a lot of work. There's actually more than 16, but we're down to 16 samples. And then at the end of this list are 2 sounds from a future library that in last week's live stream we made live during the live stream, feeding ambiences of crickets and frogs and evening ambiences from my trip to Costa Rica into molecular and making it turn into a really cool synth sound. So we'll show you those in a minute. So I have these sounds, as you can see, from the MegaMagic 1, MegaMagic 2, ambient, dry. You'll see those in the descriptions. So now that hopefully makes a little bit more sense to you. So the crescendo is starting soft to loud. And and then the MegaMagic reverb comes in. And it will slowly eventually fade out. So this is a really cool element that you could layer. You've got 3 layers to add to these now. So one rule for the patches, if you want to get into the patch making for this library, one of the 4 layers has to be one of these samples, one of these 18 samples. The other 3 layers can be whatever you want it to be. And we'll talk about that more in the programming part of this video in a little bit, but I just want to make it clear. Think of these a lot of times as just an element that you can now wrap in with something else, and we'll look at that when we get there. So the ensemble, this is taking the cello, viola, and violin pizzicatos and layering them and doubling them and using delays to get it to be stereo. This is one sample from the map. Right? And I think in the demo, I actually added reverb. But otherwise, it's the same. It's the same, okay? Ensemble Dark and Ensemble Power, these are, again, composites of cello, violin, viola together to make something new. Kind of somber, and Power is a little bit more... And if you think that's great, wait till you hear it with all the samples across the keyboard. It's incredible. All right, up next, the motion fast is a strike and then fast bowing. And because it's MegaMagic 2, that means this stereo pitch shifting reverb is added. Isn't that nice? And then motion slow is the slow. And if you hold down the notes, that MegaMagic 2 stereo pitch shifting will come in. Isn't that nice? Okay. Oh, I forgot. I should get my MIDI keyboard up. You guys like to see what I am playing. So motion very fast is faster than fast. Here's fast. Here's very fast. And it's a higher up sample. So I just love what it did down here. This beautiful wash. Open notes. Okay. Nice ambience. Pizzicato dry. I picked out like the strongest one that works good for bass kind of things. You can add a pitchy G to this to make it even snappier stuff. Now there's a pizzicato that has the MegaMagic 2 stereo pitch shifting. So play short notes, hold them out. So it depends on how you use it. We'll get to the programming stage in a bit. Picado bell harp. This is another sound that we made in last week's live stream together in live. And I was aiming in my head for the D50 vibe, like the bell harp. Got really close. And it's using FM8, and we modified the patch in real time. And then the violin and a viola and maybe a cello sample in there. Right? Spiccato down. I gave you both the down and the upstroke. Because with those, you'll be able to alternate. There's some tricks you can do with your arpeggiating and so forth. It's really cool. Violin motion harmonics. I love this. This is a nice harmonic. There's a way you can play on the strings where it creates the harmonic overtone series. And then she would bow back and forth so that it has... Isn't that nice? And then here's violin with vibrato. This is what one sample of vibrato violin sounds like. But the MegaMagic ambience kind of saves it to be more than just a violin. It can be a nice layer. And then the no vibrato is a really high sample, C#7, so it's way up here, but it just plays so cool. Really somber, cool, beautiful, cool sound. Okay, and then the two sounds that we made in the live stream. There's crystallized crickets. And if you play one note, you'll hear crickets and ambience. So the sound was being fed and kind of energized by an ambient sound effect. I have a whole library of these things that I'm working on, so those will be really cool. And this sonatarium is a really bright, belly-ass kind. Okay, so those are the 18 samples. They're given to you in a totally initialized state with just basic stuff. All other modulation sources have been turned off so that it's up to you to program it and do whatever you want to do to it. All right, so let me give you a couple tips. When you call these up, the one thing to remember is that things that are slow can be made fast, and things that are fast can be made slow. So here's a crescendo that's kind of a slow. but the attack is kind of slow. It's got, if you look at a nice thing now in granular, if you hit granular, even if you don't turn it on, you can see the actual sample shape. It helps you out a lot when you're looking at these to see what is happening in the sound. So you can see that this is a slow, right? Well, the sample start lets you move later into the sample, and now you kind of have like an oboe. If you added filtering and go to the filter envelope, bring down the sustain and bring down the decay, and then go over here and look at it and maybe work with the shape. Like, you can make, and then if you do something like, say, let's right click and randomize, so the filter cutoff. And then turn on the arpeggiator. And get the settings just right. Maybe go to the common and add a delay. It's really fun to program. If you want more interesting tonality, you've got the FM. Just right click and say modulate that with an LFO. If you wanted to have more effect, hit boost, and now it's a stronger synthesis. So there's all sorts of things you can do. Right? So our beautiful crescendo strings have become a cool, like, cinematic film. Now I'm going to save this because I like what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go save patch as. The other thing you could do, you could go save patch quick, but if you do that, it's going to overwrite the Crescendo MegaMagic 1 patch so that it now sounds like this. So I would suggest probably not doing that, but if you go save patch as, it will give you a chance to pop up the name. Let's go string ARP. I'll rename this something more cool later. ARP effects, FM effect, wacko. Now, you got to go through and do the tagging, but we've already done all the tagging. So if you don't want to, you don't have to, but you could select this and say, using FM and a delay, mod wheel, what? I'm going to do something to the mod wheel as distortion. Now, I haven't added distortion yet. We haven't done that step, but I'll show you how we do it. So let's say I come back to this tomorrow. I had to go do some, honeydews with my family and stuff like that. So I come back and I go, okay, I'm going to move this delay down here. And I said I'm going to do a distortion with the mod wheel. So you go, flame distortion is cool distortion because it has a mix slider. A lot of these distortions, if you go to something like Toxic Smasher, that does. But Metal Zone doesn't. And the amplifiers, a lot of these don't have a mix. So flame distortion is great. Go over here to the presets. And then just, you have the whole list of these different types of distortion shapes. Find the one you want. Now, you can color it. Let me show you how this works. So the pre has a filter, and I'm going to set this to be high pass filter. As you can see, if I bring this all the way down, a high pass filter is only letting frequencies in this way, right? So when it's up like this, I'm only distorting just the highest frequencies. None of the low frequencies. So I bring this down. Now it's distorting and being affected. The distortion is being affected by all frequencies. So high-pass filtering is actually really handy on distortion. And if we go dry, so that's cool. So we go modulate this with the wheel, and I want the range to be wider. Right? And maybe I want even more distortion. So I'm going to have this modulate with the wheel, but I want it to go in the opposite direction because it's a high pass filter. Just a little bit. So as I bring it up, it's going to slowly bring that knob down to get more distortion. So this is where programming gets great because you have so much control in Omnisphere with how you want certain things to be done with the controller sources that you have. And you have envelopes and LFOs. You have 8 LFOs now. You have the real-time controllers. So all that stuff. So now I've added distortion to the mod wheel. I don't need to save as, since I've already saved the patch with the name that I like. I can just go save patch quick. It says, are you sure? Yes. So there's no tagging, no descriptions, just overwriting the existing patch. Right on. So you can come back to your patches. I'm going to request you do this. I have some people in the past, I shall not name names, that have sent patches almost on a daily basis and then revisions as we get closer to the deadline. Don't do that. Just keep working with your patches, revisiting them with fresh ears, and then when you're close to the deadline and you have your patches where they're done, send them. Don't send variations and, oh, I just updated 3 of the 20 patches I sent you. And send only 20 patches max. That's the limit. If you've made more than 20, go through your 80 and cut it down to 20 of your favorites, okay? So those are the two things I just want to make really clear. All right, so we have crescendo that we started with. And by programming, we've turned it into... It doesn't have to always be a musical, beautiful thing. Some sounds just need to be these cool, weird things. But make sure it feels like inspiring and that there's ear candy in this. And there's like... I can hear that in a song. So that's kind of the rule when you're going for the patches that the other judges and myself are going to go, that's cool. It's because we hear ways you could use it in music. Like, music is a very broad spectrum, so there's a lot of room to work with. But if you just make something that's like, you know, it probably will not get selected, okay? So let's do one more edit. Instead of starting fast, or starting slow and going fast, let's choose something like maybe one of these bows that we had the motion very, like, fast. If you go to the amp envelope and we give it a slow attack, and it's always important to hit the little magnifying glass and look at the shape of the attack or the shape of the release. Right? The rule is basically this. If you bring it to the positive exponential shape, it's going to quickly get up to the most of the volume will happen very quickly. And then it's going to slowly take time as it grows that last 20%. Whereas this is the opposite. It's really quiet for a very, very long time. And then when it gets close to the end, 80% comes up, right? So that shape of the envelope is really important. And if you just take that and compress that or expand it, even when it's really fast, quite often for pads, I have it with a positive exponential. Because I want it to get enough energy when you play chords, you hear the definition of the chord differently than this. If I was to play the same kind of... It takes forever. But if I'm making a drone where I'm going to... then that might be the way to go, because I don't want this sound to show up that much to start with. And let's go filtering. I'm going to use the new state variable filter. And let's say modulate this with an LFO. And let's sync it so it does something interesting rhythmically. We're going to kind of go rhythmic with this one. And then control our depth. Find the range that works. Maybe it's... Yeah, we have to reverse these to work together. So let's have this also modulated with LFO 1, but invert it. So now we're getting a little high pass, low pass action. There we go. I'm controlling how wide I want the slider to move. Okay. And let's have it be a synth sound, let's say. And let's modulate this with an LFO. Now, so far we have a mismatch, right? We have a fast synth sound with this kind of cool. So that is not a good marriage. We need to find something more unique for the synth sound to do that will work with this. So let's try this. Let's do LFO. Let's try to have it do a pulsing thing maybe. And let's sync. And when you sync, you need to set this to legato for the LFO shape. That's really important if they're synced, because that way when the note comes down, they all are synced together. Now that's more interesting. And we're on layer B, so let's just have a delay on this side. Now we have something that better matches what we did to layer A, right? And let's get a sample, something really just big, pure, detuny. Let's do this. Let's go to the user, the demo library. We have those composites, so we could use either like maybe the Ensemble Power Dark right here. And again, if you go to granular, you'll see it's got a slow attack. We want this to jump in with everybody else at the beginning, so move the sample start later. So this is that experimental stage. I'm playing with the filter settings to find where I want this layer A to work, you know? And let's maybe have this also be modulated with that same LFO. So we go to all mod sources, LFO 3. And now I've turned that thing that was going back and forth into kind of a and then I think I'm going to take this guy up an octave instead of down an octave. And then we need like a really cool reverb on this to hit. And it might be cool to have something even busier on D. So, oh, we got noise there. So let's just go modulate this with an LFO. You know the steps now. Legato, sync, let's say 16th notes. Let's find the different LFO shape. Now maybe I want more bass. I want something to be a little bit bigger. And we could do some fun stuff here. The noise, in particular, these three sliders. Do all sorts of cool things. So let's go right here. Let's say modulate this with random. So just say randomize. And let's randomize this. And I don't know if you know this, but it selects a different random table for each time you say randomization for up to 4 times. So oh, you know what? Random won't work because I'm not, this is a rhythmic thing happening with LFOs. If I used to be over here, which I might be, now the random is happening. I like that. And let's maybe have a little delay on D. Each one of these blocks of effects correspond with one of the 4 layers. There's a rule to this though. You have to have your signal path set to normal. If you set it to shared, now it's only one signal path and you got to start with whatever that's going to be. Now let's see, let's go back to normal and hopefully everything's there and works, right? Now, what can we do to define things? It's a little muddy in my earbuds. By the way, 64 audio in-ear monitors that are awesome. I really hear truly the frequencies that are going on. I go from here to the Genelec monitors that I use to do my final controlling and everything, and it's really, 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 that's the closest I've, these are little, what are these? These are clips. In-ear monitors that I normally used to use, and man, it would take a lot of time working with sounds after using those to get them to sound right in a room. Here the transfer is incredibly close. So I know what I'm hearing, which is nice. Now this fourth, let's go to this. This sound here with the arpeggiator is just a wash, right? But I want it to stick out. How can I get this to stick out? Notes are being played. I could filter it. That's one way, and maybe I'll do a little bit of that. And control your shape a little bit more. But I want it to stick out more, I think. Let's see, let's turn on B, A. That's better. But let's see what happens if we go to C, right? We're on layer C, which is the pad. And we're going to right click and say modulate this with mod envelope 4. This is one of my favorite tricks. You go up here to the presets, you go simple, just one spike. Turn off this stuff, set it to note, and make it polyphonic. And now it says super spike, but bring down the depth. You can even go in and randomize this or assign it to a wheel. Maybe I'll... And I want the sawtooth waveform. I want that to ring out a little longer. Now, something's not quite syncing right. No, I have to play in quantize, I think, when I... Now, this might be nice to have go to right here. This is the auxiliary bus. If you bring this up, you're sending audio into this auxiliary effect chain. And so let's go over here and let's add a reverb and bring this to 100%, nice and long. And I want to make it really nice and bright. But what's nice with this is that when this is down, when you bring it up, and then when you bring this back down, unlike if I was to do a reverb here, I can bring it up. As soon as I move the mix, it immediately goes away. What's nice with the auxiliary send is whatever is happening here. Let's do this. Let's actually put a delay in front of it so we even notice even more of a unique, cool thing happening. Let's say quarter notes. When I bring this down, you hear leftover stuff slowly fading out. Still fading out. So that's kind of nice to assign that to the mod wheel. Right? And then maybe we'll go over to the cutoff of those. Maybe we bring this up with the wheel a little bit, and we also bring up resonance. That should be really interesting because the resonance is going to make it more. Now I have one more trick to show you. We've really taken this way out, haven't we? I mean, we started with a fast motion thing, and it's... And check this out. If you hold down Command and click, you're not doing enough. And you hold down Command, you're in solo mode. Part of the reason I don't hear this is because my amp is slow. Remember I went to the ARP? It kind of got lost. There it's back. I was like, I'm not hearing that element. One thing for these patches you send, you want to make sure that the element that is from the library is not doing this. And like you don't hear it, because what's happening, the ARP is playing notes, but the amp envelope shape is so slow. Can't hear it, so we fixed that. Again, if you hold down Command, you can solo any one of these layers. And I can check to see what they're doing. Hold down Command and change to something else. Maybe with this one, I have one more trick I want to do to this one sound. This is C. This is that dark ensemble. And I'm going to turn on Harmonia. And I'm going to say octave down, -12. Give me a nice big bump, but without it to start. And then right click the wheel so that the modulation, when I bring up the mod wheel, I can even make it drop a whole octave. If I bring it to 100%. Because when you bring this to this, it's 100% whatever Harmonia is doing. Whereas this way, it's no Harmonia, right? So we've now added a pretty sweet thing. We just click this again. Now we're back to the full thing. Maybe I don't want 100%. What about 50%? Right? Okay. So now I could maybe have some fun. Go to the waveform. Maybe I don't want it to be a sawtooth. And again, since the arpeggiator is involved, it's really fun just to randomize a bunch of stuff to get different things. And go down the list, because let's have hard sync do a little bit of a moving. Doesn't take much. And this is a sound that's kind of, to me, it might be better if I go to the main page and transpose it, the whole thing down one octave here. Okay. Not bad. I'll keep working on it. It takes time. I mean, I get lucky in a lot of these live streams, but I'll go back and revisit this 2 or 3 times over the next couple of weeks, you know, before it becomes final. But I hope this gives you some ideas of how fun it is to take sounds, use that as a layer, go to layer B, go to the samples. You have to do some extra hoop jumping in 2.5 to get to the user samples. Now this is super bright and irritating, but I love it because that means that there's all that frequency content to filter. So there's all sorts of places you can go with this stuff. Shorten the release. Now here's a nice case. In closing, go to the envelope, and here's your envelope shape for the release. Now it's going to go a long time and fade out really fast. Or you can go the other way like this, where it fades out faster, but it's really natural. Nice. We like that. Okay. So that's, now this is one of those cases where that's notes being held out. Notes holding out require more CPU than a reverb effect. So a lot of times, instead of having the notes ring out, I'll make this shorter, and then I'll go to the effects on layer B, just add a reverb. Yeah, maybe shorten a little bit. You can do some fun things on the more page, turn it over to the second page of the reverb. There's high time and frequency, so you can make it so that it's shorter in the high frequencies, like that, which is nice. So you combine that. That's a lot nicer to me, copy this effect, than just calling up the reverb. Here it just lays there. Now it goes away quicker. Okay, so get to programming. That's what this is all about. Have fun. There's a README PDF that comes with this library that you can check out. And if you have questions, there's an email address to contact me. If you have questions, you can also contact me through the on my website. There's a contact button right here. Just hit that. Send me a note. I get it. Happy to help. All right. Have fun with this. The full library will come out at the end of September. So thank you again for your support. Have fun. Bye.